Hello, today is September 5th, 2018. This is the kubeadm office hours of SIG cluster lifecycle. I am Tim St. Clair. I'll be your moderator for this conversation. And I got a couple of agenda items that I put in there before the meeting. If other folks have other agenda items, please feel free to add them to the doc. The first agenda item, which is kind of thorny and weird, and I don't know a good answer for it, is Vince has worked on creating an updated doc with regards to CRI installation, because for 1.12, we have no testing cycles for any other CRI other than containerd inside of the test automation, but that's not even jigged through kubeadm though, right? So it's kind of this weird conundrum that we currently have. So inside of the main doc for kubeadm installation, I was of the mind that we should recommend containerd, just say like we quote recommend containerd for the installation, and then have a totally separate doc, which is part of Vince's pull, that outlines here's how you install these other CRIs, right? Are there any thoughts there, questions, comments, complaints? For those who don't know the details, you can no longer install 1703 because that was the default that we had for a long time.
So I suggested that we move the new page to a new location. And I suggested, am I breaking up, by the way? My internet is horrible right now.
A little bit. Your video is breaking up, but your audio is fine.
I'm going to have to stop it. I suggested a new location that is the setup CRI. And I'm not sure if this is the correct location for this doc. And also, by the way, we already have a little bit of a setup instruction about CRI, and it's located in another location.
Okay.
And yeah.
I knew that the location of the document would be incorrect and someone would want a different home. I even mentioned that to Vince when he was originally doing the PR. So I figured we'd wait for comments and feedback of where the proper home should be. I'll also poke Jennifer and assign her on that issue to figure out where the canonical location should be. My major concern wasn't logistics. It was about the details of what we as a SIG or a sub-project within the SIG want to support for this 1.12 release as the default.
Well, like what is the demand? What do people want? That's the bigger question.
I don't think many people care. I think Docker would probably be the preferred still default for the time being because it's what people know. The problem with that is that we don't have an updated version of Docker in the test CI automation. So it's still running. So the only images that we use, I'd have to double check this. We might be able to update it. I know the default test stuff for most of the test apparatus uses Google's optimized container image for 90% of the test jiggery. But with our test images, I believe they're still Ubuntu. So it's possible that we could make a really quick jig change to get updated with the latest version of Docker and still default to Docker.
Oh, so yeah, go ahead.
From a community perspective, that's the typical thing that people are used to, and that's still the default in kubeadm.
So what is the status of SIG-Node validating the latest Docker?
They're not going to. They don't. They validate what Google cares about, and the CRI folks do their own validation for their bits. SIG-Node will not take preferential treatment on given versions of Docker or other things. They basically use their optimized images. At least that's what Google's doing, right?
In this way, are we basically taking the validation and testing in the sequence lifecycle hands?
I think we have no other choice. We are the only integration point. Eventually, we should probably create a test matrix that's up the stack a little more. In an ideal world, we have multiple cluster API implementations that build out kubeadm HA clusters for different cloud providers. And in that world, we can get good signal for different CR implementations across cloud providers, across installations. But we don't have that level of integration tests yet. I think we can default to, what is it, 1806? Or sorry, what's the latest version of Docker that's defaultly supported for uninstallation? 18 what?
06, I think.
06. We can make a PR to test infra and update the installation instructions, which I think it's actually might even be pulling in 1806 right now by default, and we're not even really paying attention, in which case we don't have to do anything. Because I don't think you can defaultly install 1703 at all anymore.
I think it's using 1806, in fact. I need to double check it.
Why don't we sync on this bit in the after this meeting and double check the actual installation? And we need to update the instructions then.
Which instructions?
The kubeadm installation instructions. Currently, it still spells out 1703.
Yeah. So that's part of the problem with the docs. We have like instructions for Docker on that page, and now we have another page with all the CRIs. We should probably remove the Docker's installation from there and link to the page. Let me give some links about this. Just a second. So in this page, I'm copy pasting in chat. So just a second. In this page, we have installing Docker, and now Vince is adding like the separate page for the CRI.
Yeah, I would say that installing Docker should just be part of the CRI page. Vince.
Yeah, I can work on this. I completely missed this. So.
Okay, so if you want to, as part of your PR, if you want to delete that doc and basically roll it into the CRI page, that makes a ton more sense in my opinion.
Just the part of installing Docker, right?
Yes.
Okay. I could usually do installing CRI and just link it.
Yes.
So something else here. So with Docker, we have this special treatment for different distros. Like, does anybody know like what is the state with the different CRIs with different distros? We have tabs for Docker about this.
I do know that we have tested on CentOS and Ubuntu 1806 as part of the default installation, just because it was unavoidable. So we do have good signal there from our side, and it's been passing. I do know that there were a couple of minor issues that had occurred, but they were not they weren't on 1806. Jason, do you recall other details there? This is Andy's work. I muted Flavio because I couldn't understand what was happening there. Well, I think we have good signal there. I think we should follow up on Slack with regards to the details. So we should probably loop through the docs, the PR that Vince is currently making, as well as deduping the installation instructions and finding the canonical home for where we want to do this. I would probably use a similar location to where the Docker doc is. And then you could probably move it to that similar location, Vince.
Sounds good.
Okay.
When I was browsing like test grid, I saw at some point like we do have verification for different CRIs, but I don't remember where it was.
It's underneath the node test group, yeah, but it's not part of the kubeadm installation path, right?
I see.
So that's always been a conundrum. So yeah. On SUSE and OpenSUSE, we have Docker, and we would like to make Cryo the default one. If people want to add test automation for Cryo, the problem with Cryo currently in the upstream tests is the CI signal is not good. So if you actually look through the test suite, through test grid, the Cryo integration through test automation is not complete, but it is for Containerd. So I think that's just technical debt, and I've already poked the stakeholders repeatedly regarding this issue. So it's up to them to do the work to make it so it's, from the community perspective, it's totally clear that it's fully supported.
So currently the Containerd tests are failing, and the nodes Cryo tests are not running, I guess.
Yes. So I think if we're at 1806, I think we should have, we should probably, I don't know why this is here. If we are at 18, if the test automation is at 1806, we should revisit what the default should be pretty soon.
Okay.
Right. So next up I had on the list was walking the backlog real quick and try to identify items that we have potentially for 112 that we still need eyes on, or things that we think are missing. Are there other, before I do that, are there other agenda items that folks wanted to discuss? Nope. All right, I will share my screen then real quick. So we are currently into code freeze, which basically means we are nearing the end of cycle time. We do need assistance on testing and docs and bug fixes. I've gone through last week and basically triaged the issues for 112 that currently were in the list. I have not gone through and did it again recently with some of the issues that are currently there. But we can do that kind of as a group right now. I pre-triaged things that were from the Heptio side of the house. So Vince, Chuck, Jason's, and my issues. But there's a bunch of other ones here that I think we could probably walk through and discuss details if we want to address them in the ending of 112 cycle. And if you have things that you think are missing, please speak up and we can add those for 112.
Sounds good.
All right. So first one is on you, Lubomir, is how to use IPVS mode for kube proxy by kubeadm. I saw portions of documentation fly through. Do you think this is still go for, I think I assigned it to you. Do you think this is still go for 112?
Yes, so the first PR got merged. The second one, I think, is waiting for approval from SIGDocs.
Okay. And it's basically just networking, I think. Is it just SIGDocs?
Yeah, I'm kind of confused if we should merge to the master branch here instead of the release branch. SIGDocs are recently changing their uh, release branch setup, and I'm kind of confused with the process. But I
Okay.
mean, Jennifer is going to tell us if this is wrong, I guess.
Right.
This is waiting for approval, I think.
It is. I think it's
I,
ready to go. So why don't we just say real quick here, lifecycle active, just so we know the current state.
yeah, forgot this one.
Inconsistent logging during kubeadm init. I think there are a couple of glog issues. Is that the one that currently exists? Does anyone want to take this one? It's currently help wanted. It's pretty minor.
So I tried to add the lifecycle active and remove help wanted.
Yeah.
But I'm confused.
I don't know how that even occurs here.
I removed
Help
it.
lifecycle active. Okay.
Oh no, it's gone. This is active. Somebody took it. The problem here, I think, is that he found that there are more potential guac outputs that we don't want. To my understanding, Chuck can comment more on this. We only have like 2 stray guac outputs in the validator code. But I'm going to comment on this more. Ideally, Chuck should comment here.
Yeah, I'm having trouble remembering exactly what these calls are. If they're still, is this still a problem? I remember we had some work done around this. I thought you fixed some issues, Lubomir.
So in the kernel validator, for sure, we have 1 stray guac entry, but I'm not sure about the kubelet because the kubelet validation is taken from it's vendored from another location.
Yeah.
I need to double check this. I was going to comment on this today.
So, okay, why don't I assign this to you then, Lubomir, to just so has somebody who's shepherding it through. And we can always revisit. I don't think it's super duper important. I do know that the weird output mishmash that we had before was not really good, but it's not like a blocker for the release.
Yeah.
So, hello, one thing.
Yes.
Can you hear me? This is Rafael from Success. So one of my colleagues is working on that one, on the previous one, yeah, the inconsistent logging one.
Okay.
So I guess he can keep working on that, or?
Yeah, just work with Lubomir. Like I can't assign people who aren't part of the Kubernetes org. So if Lubomir is kind of shepherding it through and helping him out, he can get it all the way through to LGTM, and then I have to do final approval.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna skip over Chuck's stuff. CRA installation instructions, that's already currently up, and we just talked about that one. This is one that is, I don't mind if anyone else does it. I originally assigned it to Liz, but it's currently not active. But Go docking the config, I think would be helpful for everyone. It is a major pain point from the consumers of people who are trying to use kubeadm's configuration file. And as we constantly shift these things, having a canonical location for these examples is super useful. So the importance is high, but it's not fun, but needs to be done. So if other folks want to work on this.
Tim, I'm just finishing up my current issues, so I can probably actually handle this.
Okay, cool.
I think we already we generate Go docs or config.
Yes, but I'm saying like the example that's inside of the kubeadm setup instructions should not be in the documentation. It should not be in the guide. We should take examples and push them into the GoDoc examples. So that way, every time a person looks for the code for a given version or release of Kubernetes, they can find the kubeadm config GoDoc with the examples, with the config right there.
Yeah, that's good, and we don't have to rely on SIGDocs to merge the PRs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So Liz has got it covered, she said. Core DNS. This should be fixed, I believe now. I think it was merged. I saw it merged through, so we can close this one. For the TLDR of this one, for whatever reason, the core DNS folks put a memory limit on it by default in 1.11, and it was booming. So they changed and modified it, so it no longer has a limit. So it's no longer a bug. I believe the other ones have been merged. What was your comment here?
I mean, he's talking about like customizing the version, which is not exactly that easy to do. Yeah. We have a separate issue about this. I can talk about the memory limit. I suggested to coordinate folks to, if they're not sure about this, they should pretty much go back to the 512, which is the default max.
Skip my stuff. I'm already looking at that. Kubernetes reset. Ross, we talked about this a bit online. Do you have any questions, comments, complaints, concerned about this one?
Yeah, I'm still not very sure on what should I do. I did some testing, but aside from several empty folders, I don't see anything left over.
So there were two major issues with Cruft that I'm aware of, and other people can comment if they remember them too. The one was IP tables goop that was left over. There's nothing we can do about that. That's a responsibility of the proxy. What we can do is log an issue with the proxy folks and ask them for a one-shot cleanup command or subcommand for the proxy. But even then, it becomes weird because I don't think there is tracking. Because like once you're disconnected, I don't think there is tracking of what state the proxy last had. So if you're trying to clean up ITU tables rules, you could accidentally like nuke the planet. I don't think that's good either. But the other one that is a known is using CRI tools to basically clean up all of the legacy containers that are hanging out.
So, I mean, should we clean the containers? That's the question. I mean,
well, we do that with Docker, right? Like it works for Docker, but it doesn't work for the other CRIs. So like I do know that Containerd was leaking containers at the end of a run if you're doing kubeadm reset.
I mean, if we have no means to clean them up, I guess we shouldn't do anything.
Well, you can use the CRI. The whole purpose of using the CRI tools was that you'd shell out to get the listing of containers and delete them.
Yeah, but even using this way, like we do on Docker, we simply clean up the kube dash prefixed containers, and I'm not sure if this is actually a good starting point. Probably we should try draining the node. So this is like my effort in the last day.
Yeah, that's probably better because that will cause the kubelet to do the eviction. I actually like that much better. It will take a while though. Did you check how long it takes to do a drain?
Actually, I checked, but unfortunately, the drain did not take place. So the node was actually cordoned out of the cluster, and no new pods can be scheduled on it. But existing containers were not killed.
Okay. I don't necessarily think this is a requirement for 112. It'd be nice to have, but
Yes, I agree.
yeah.
So
I do think it sucks, though. I mean, that's the idea that you're leaking containers on a reset is not ideal, right?
Maybe we should like discuss this in the next cycle, like decide what is the absolute cleanup we are looking for.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. I know that was part of the 112 planning, but we can punt that one out. Ideally, Liz, I'd still like to have a KEP at the end of the cycle so that we can start to talk about it. I know the SUSE folks are here, or SUSE, I never know how to pronounce it right, about unified policy for command line args and systemd unit file integration and yada, yada, yada. There's, I would like one plan to rule them all and start to talk about this stuff as a group. I don't know if the SUSE folks have chimed in on what their requirements are, but it would be ideal if they had a listing of requirements. I think they might have, they did. So I think working with the SIG and developing a KEP that we could start execution on in 113 would be great, but it's not strictly a requirement.
So I saw somebody working on the N2S framework, like yesterday in the meeting about SIG testing, right? Somebody's working on updating the end-to-end framework. I forgot his name. He's from Germany. And he was investigating Viper and how to, there's a similar problem there.
No, I know it's the same problem we've had.
Yeah, so I think this should be like a global Kubernetes kept, like it's not only about kubeadm, it feels like.
Well, I want to start with kubeadm. The problem if you do something global is death by 1,000 needles, because if you're going to involve every person in, or every other SIG, it might be stuck, right? If we vet a KEP and we agree, we can POC it, and then eventually if it's successful, we can sort of try to push adoption more broadly across the rest of the components in the stack. But I don't want to start there first because that's just a recipe for intransigence, right?
Yeah, it can stall for a very long time.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure in terms of 112. I'm not sure we can do this. I mean, there's not enough time for this.
No. I'm just leaving it on the 112 cycle for it's a document, right? So we can always just punt it out. But I just want to keep it there for relative priority in triaging.
So the main problem with Viper, it seems that it's kind of unmaintained, and I should talk to this guy from Germany more because he did a lot of testing. But we were considering forking Viper. Do you know what is the policy in Kubernetes for forking something that is useful but not very well maintained upstream?
It's irrelevant from Kubernetes perspective so long as the licenses for vendoring into Kubernetes are consistent and there is a maintainer. Typically, there's a bunch of code that's actually vendored into Kubernetes that I think is just legacy and not even necessarily even maintained. Doing an audit of that is a wow level of work. I don't know if you looked at the entire depth graph of Kubernetes, but it's pretty amazing.
I mean, we might propose this like vendoring Viper and improving it so that it works. And if we can use Viper for everything, that's like a good solution, I think.
Yeah, well, I think we can probably take it to a KEP here. I would like to keep it on the 112 cycle to at least just, have it there. We can, or I always punt it at the end of the cycle. That's fine too.
So it's a question of who is going to work on the KEP. Perhaps we should share it under Google Docs first.
Yes, I think that's the best way to just get started.
Okay, can you please assign it to me? I'm going to create a Google Doc for it.
Uh,
That's probably one of the toughest subjects we have.
Yep. All right, here, let's go down. Bootstrap token ZA, that's still active. I'm working on the kube proxy fix forever because I keep getting interrupted. We can leave that there. HA documentation, that's a known. I know that once we are further into this week, Chuck and Ruben and Jason will probably do a quick pulse on the updates and installation instructions for HA. So if you, when you're doing that, please reach out to Fabrizio to make sure that, to get him on the review chain for some of that stuff, and myself too, because the instructions should probably be modified for how we did things before.
Also, given this is like based on a new feature, like we have joint master, I think it's going to have to be covered in this doc as well.
Yes, joint control plane will have to be covered.
I think we should file the PR not against the master branch of the website repo, but against the release branch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
because it's a new feature.
I agree. What other things are here?
Is there a 112 beta release?
It just got released.
Ah, sweet. Okay.
There is a 112 beta that was released today, I believe.
Yes, after a lot of troubles. And also, Caleb Miles is currently blocking something about the DIMS wanted for the manifest list support. I mean, that's off topic. Okay.
So I'm just going to leave this here. I know, did you finish this work off currently with some of the test infra issues?
So can you open it, please? I have some questions about this. Like I sent the PR.
I'm gonna open it in a new tab, which I should have been doing all the time.
So in terms of the docs, I'm going to write them. That's not a problem. But I sent the PR. I'm not sure if it's linked here. Do we have the? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Can you explain what has to be verified there and basically to unblock this? Who can help? Like you asked Alexander.
Oh, the reason why I said that was if you were looking at some of the deltas because of the way the diff was run, not ones that are brand new, ones where you.
Yeah, the diff is pretty bad here because.
So when you get overlapping diffs, there were a couple of different locations of where the location of the pulled binary went from a different bin, a GCS bucket. It was like CIS cross, and that's where I commented. So like it switched from CI or release to CI cross. And in those issues, the reason I asked Alexander to take a look at it was because we've had a ton of issues with the pull location test automation not being the correct location. So I don't see them anymore.
I mean, I haven't fixed it. It's just a diff, a difficult to read diff because I'm moving things around a lot.
Yeah, that's the problem. So if you verified, I'm fine with getting it done and getting it in because we need to do that now.
Yep.
Well, has Alexander even followed up with you?
I mean, Alexander is here.
No, I haven't checked that particular pull request, but I think like our previous release, we changed it to a location where the images are published. So CI should work nowadays.
No, it was something that was a CI cross, but I don't remember what it was. And that's the one I commented on. I don't know if I can see my old comments here. Yeah, it was right here. This is the one that stood out to me. I'm like, whoa, because I know that that's actually correct. I don't think I even saw that in your updated diff.
I mean, this one is like I'm removing 1.8, and it happens so that the 112 diff is like merged on top of this particular bit, and the diff is confusing. But I mean, we can verify it, I guess.
Would you have time to quick double check this, Alexander?
Well, I don't know too much about test infra, but yeah, I will try to contact Lubomir and we can check together.
I don't have problems with it. It just looks like a rearrangement problem, honestly. So this probably was cribbed from a different location. I think there was, so that, like we mentioned earlier, the diff was weird.
Yeah, so what I did with Ben is basically I separated things into separate files, and I'm going to document this much easier because previously it was a bit of a unstructured mess.
Mm-hmm. All right. Is there anything else you want to comment on that one, or move on?
I mean, if we can like LGTM it with Alexander today, we should merge it today.
Yes, I'm going to put it on my. I'm going to walk through it separately by hand too. So I got a separate window. I just put it on.
Okay, thanks.
To-do window. Yep. Upgrade path for stack masters. kubeadm alpha phase pre-flight master fails in V111. Fabrizio. Are you going to have time to look at this, Fabrizio?
I think you can close it. I will check the 112 data. It's part of my test chain.
So this is about an empty host name, I see.
Yep. I do know that that entire host name, what's it called?
Override?
No, not the override, but the entire call chain has been switched in 112. There was a separate utility that we integrated with, and we updated that utility. I think one of our Chinese colleagues were the ones that fixed it. Happened early in the 112 cycle.
I think it was Dixu, probably.
Yeah. This is done, right? That's part of that other PR.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
I'll just close this one because we already have that in the other PR, and that lifecycle's marked it additive.
Okay. Yeah, the other one is for the documentation. It's fine.
We'll get that done today. I'm going to assume that the rest of the bits for control plane join, you have a checklist here for Fabrizio. And I marked a couple of them checked. The website stuff, there's a lot of overlapping issues, to be honest. We have like 3 or 4 different HA docs issues that are all intermingled and interrelated. So perhaps next week we can just like focus on deduping that stuff and see where we're at. Okay, now I think we did walk the list of things that I haven't already triaged. Are there any other items that folks are aware of that are missing for 112 that we need to address?
Sadly, we couldn't get the Sentinel/log file, which it's sort of a bug fix, but I think it's also a feature, so we should move it.
It's a feature. Yeah, it's a feature.
Yeah, we're moving it for the next cycle, basically. It's not a problem.
Are there other things that folks need to address? I think the biggest thing we need right now is just folks to hammer on what we currently have. And we do have, at least we, Heptio, do have a definitive plan for 113 to get better testing via cluster API in place. I would say definitive. It's more hand wavy still right now, but this is like it's going to be an objective.
So from my company perspective, we don't really have any goals. It's just a generic open source work. We are helping projects out. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, well, there's both on our side. So like we want to help the open source as well as like help ourselves, help everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the cluster API is going to be interesting indeed. I mean, if somebody wants help from me, I already sort of understand like parts of how to set up jobs in test inference, stuff like that. And I can help with that if anybody needs help.
Yeah. I think we'll definitely take you up on that and probably loop in Vince and Chuck in the 113 cycle. But I would ideally, I want to kill Kubernetes anywhere in the 113 cycle. That's like my.
So yeah, that's an interesting topic. So Ben is writing the the tool that is like Docker in Docker. So that's one potential replacement for Kubernetes anywhere.
There's a problem with kind in that you're not going to get an HA deployment.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
And that's a big driver for the cluster API implementation that we're currently working on.
Yeah, do you think like so potentially cluster API is the bigger replacement for Kubernetes anywhere?
Yes, that's the actual provisioning of resources. I think there's two pieces that are ideal, right? Like we have, a layered approach to this thing. If we can somehow get kind in place for PR blocking jobs and eliminate cops, eliminate all these other provisioning tools that kind of blast out clusters and makes every single PR for Kubernetes take forever, and make the PR blocking jobs be kind, or which are basically kind is a Kubernetes Docker and Docker implementation that Ben is working on, which is written in Go and tries to take the best efforts from other Docker and Docker implementations. That is ideal because then we have automatic PR blocking test coverage for everything kubeadm related, which we've never had. We have the periodic jobs. We don't have the blocking jobs. That's both good and bad. The good thing is we'll find things immediately. The bad thing is the flakes, if there are flakes with this new setup.
I mean, the flakes are mostly cloud provider specific things.
Yeah, exactly. So I would hope, fingers crossed, that the number of flakes we would see would be decreased because a lot of it has to do with, just glitches or behavior with, integration with providers.
So in terms of Kubernetes anywhere HA, I'm not sure. Like
I don't even go there. I'm not even gonna.
I'm asking because I've updated the jobs like in this PR that we were discussing earlier, and yes. I didn't see any HA jobs. Everything in there is single master, like 5 nodes.
Yes.
4 nodes. So Kubernetes anywhere is not used for HA currently.
But yes, that's correct. I think we'll deal with that. I think once we get into 113, we can. We're kind of getting a little off the rails, but I think the premise is let's punt on that stuff until 113, and we can discuss some of the details there once we're in that cycle. I think right now what we probably need to focus on is if there's anything else that we think needs to be addressed for 112, because we've got T-minus week and a half. I don't know, was it 25th is when it's cut?
I think yes.
Yeah, so it's about quote unquote 20 days, but you have less than that because you get into the cherry pick mode. So it's about 2.5 weeks to finish off the rest of the issues that are here. I
think the good thing about the backlog is that we don't have serious like bugs. I don't see any.
No, I think the biggest thing is just instructions. I put critical urgent on some of the documentation stuff as well as some actual bugs, but they're not actually even in kubeadm. this one isn't actually a kubeadm bug.
Yeah. So in terms of like you asked Jennifer yesterday if she can help, what tasks do you want to give her?
Basically, any documentation updates that we have. So we have a couple of documents that need to be updated, like the HA documentation needs to be updated. Anything that says basically kind documentation, you know, assign Jennifer. So like the CRI instructions, updates to HA, the 112 upgrade instructions, which are usually we need to have a separate installation or upgrade guide typically, because there's minor modifications that occur.
Yeah, she can help us streamline the approval.
Yeah. So I think the one thing I just identified, which is not in the list, is the 112 upgrade instructions. So I will add that one.
We are getting an ouch in chat. Flavio, what is the problem?
Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry,
Yes.
I had the wrong focus on my window manager. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay, no worries.
All right. I mean, I'm going to look later at what is like updated for me.
Okay, I can't think of anything else unless there's other issues that folks wanted to address for the rest of the 112 cycle, or if there's other agenda items that folks wanted to discuss for today.
Something we can do, I mean, this like more project oriented, it's not kubeadm specific, but I can like show an example of how I have set up my email filters if someone is interested. But I mean, I receive a lot of email, probably like you, Tim, but I filter like everything, and I see, as an example, I monitor the website repository, the release repository, you name it. I monitor everything, and if others can set up that too, they have like, they want to.
I just archive everything from GitHub.
Yeah, well, you can feed it into a database even.
There's already a database for it. It's called GitHub. Just use that.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I would Fabrizio, I would appreciate a write up on that, but those sorts of filters are so deeply personal that I don't know that it's the best use of our time right now to just like walk through them, especially since it's the sort of thing we would need to spend a bunch of time tweaking ourselves.
Yeah.
I was just talking about eventually. I mean, just
gotcha. Yeah.
Silly proposal. It's not really something that we should do.
I would certainly be interested in reading like you know a write up somewhere. Tim is always going on about how good his filters are too. So.
I'm not how good it is. It's the only thing I've ever figured out how to do to manage a project of this scale. And I'm not proud of it. It's like one of those things where it's like an impressive Rube Goldberg machine of doom, but I do not like it, enjoy it, or think it's efficient. So.
All right, that's legit.
One major problem I'm seeing with this is that people like in key positions in meetings are saying that GitHub is not possible to like monitor correctly. You don't have good, you cannot get good GitHub notifications. I have a problem with that because it's usually the user setup is not there.
I agree, and I know who you're talking about. I would just do a write-up and send it to KHDevL. I don't think it's germane to this particular SIG. You can always just include a larger audience. Be like, hey, you can even like crib T. Hawkins. I asked T. Hawkins a long time ago, and I copied some of his ideas on how he deals with it. And he wrote up this long list of hierarchical filters that he created. And I have a very similar mechanism, which is even more Byzantine. So if you wanted to like take his doc and distill your doc and send it to Devel, I think that would be fruitful for the community as a whole.
Yep.
Agreed.
I might do this eventually.
Okay. Are there any other group topics?
I think it might be worth mentioning that the Heptonians are not going to be particularly available next week.
Yes.
Some of us might be checking our email, some of us might be checking Slack, but don't assume you'll be able to get a hold of us. We're having our company's yearly summit.
Yeah, we will be off. We definitely won't make next week Wednesday's kubeadm office hours. I'm just gonna unequivocally state that because we'll be in other meetings and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and I think a lot of us are going to be on a flight during. Next week is a SIG cluster thing, or is next week an off week? I can't keep track.
next week is an on week. So
Okay.
the overall meeting, I'll talk with Robbie and see if he can make that one.
Yeah, we should figure out who's going to be able to record it beforehand.
And for the office hours next week, should we do one with Fabrizio and everyone else?
I think just build an agenda, and if folks have an agenda, then it makes perfect sense to hold a meeting. If there's not,
yeah, but we don't have credentials to record it. That's.
I'd be happy to share some of those deets because we've done that in the past too. So if you wanted to be able to record the meeting, then just put it on a Google Drive, and Robbie or I can, or Jason now can also post it.
I mean, it's probably better for Fabrizio to have the privilege. But if he doesn't want to, I mean, I can take care of that. Fabrizio, do you have a comment on that?
I think he dropped. I don't see him on anymore.
Well, okay. So I think it's better if you share the account with him on private, and we can discuss it with him later.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thanks.
Any other last topics? Going once, twice, 3 times? Okay, thanks everybody.